Everybody, welcome. X's and Noles presented by Noles247.com. As always, with a twist, Kevin Little, Adam Brown, I'm Trey Rowland, and today I have the distinct honor and pleasure of welcoming the new guy on the team. John Evans is joining us on the Noles 24/7 staff. He is going to be doing a lot of great work for us on the website. Comes to us from an Oregon website, Duck Territory. Do not hold that against him. John had nothing to do with that team in the 2014 death year, so we don't hold any Oregon grudges against John.
I think he was in like elementary school.
I don't want to know what year he was in 2014 because I'm already feeling old enough with 3 children. But anyway, John, welcome to the staff. Welcome to this video. We're going to be doing a brief introduction of John. We're also going to be kind of also watching a little bit of film because that's John's specialty, just to give you guys a little teaser. But John, welcome. What are you on, like day 2, day 3 at this point?
Yeah, day three. It started on Monday, and just been getting into it. I'm just super excited to be here. I've always wanted to be able to talk about football. The idea that someone is going to pay me to talk about football is really cool. And so I love getting to learn as much as I can about this game and just talk about it with other people who also like to learn about it, and try to dive into the X's and O's and really kind of understanding what is going on, because that's what it's really all about. This is such a I say football is such a beautiful game because it's the ultimate strategy game, and it just constantly goes back and forth and ebbs and flows from offense and defense as everybody tries to come up with new ideas. So that's what makes it so fun, and that's why I love talking about this stuff.
Oh, you get me fired up now, my friend. Now, you're not coming in here totally as a newbie. You've been doing a lot of great work over at that Oregon site. Can you just explain to our viewers who may not be familiar with you yet just how long you were at that previous site, the type of stuff that you did, and maybe some pieces that you were really kind of proud of when you were there?
Yeah, so I interned for Duck Territory, the Oregon site, for 24/7 for the last 3 years. Shout out to my buddy Austin Oda from KWVA, the radio station there. That was what first got me into it, and he introduced me to the guys there. And then I kind of grew from there. And softball was my main beat there, but as I got more and more into it, I loved being able to kind of dive into the football stuff, and especially this past year. We lost one of our writers, and so I really became a part of that core of the football coverage, and it was able to, kind of provide that. I was trying to find something that wasn't getting covered, and that was the X's and O's stuff. Diving into, every week I would break down Will Stein's 5 best play calls, and kind of explain why he was doing things and how that went. And I get into talk about what we'll get into today, what Dylan Thieneman was doing last year and the defense that they were able to run, which they stole from Ohio State after Ohio State gave them the beatdown. But it's just all that stuff that I was able to kind of bring to the Duck Territory message boards and all that stuff, and really able to build a kind of like a profile for myself, which is really exciting. And that's how I got noticed here. And and now I'm just ready to get going.
I love it, man. And the X's and O's stuff, you're at the right place. This is the type of stuff that we dive into, the minutia, the detail, the nuance, the stuff that, in my opinion, is really evergreen, the stuff that people are always trying to learn about. So you're in the right place. Now on to some tougher questions. John, what has been a Pacific Northwest guy, both an Oregon and a Seattle Seahawks fan? Good time to be you right now. What is your current impression of this version of the Florida State Seminoles? How familiar are you with the fun that we've had down here in Tallahassee for the past couple of years?
It's been interesting to get into. Everyone seems a little confused about how I could be going from Oregon and one of the top programs in the country right now to a program that seems to be in a little bit of disarray and it's kind of looking for its identity and kind of a bounce back. But the Jameis Winston national championship was like that. That was like peak of my childhood. I remember that stuff. Florida State, the brand to me. I know what this can be, and obviously we saw it a couple of years ago. I was, the Oregon was competing with them for one of those playoff spots before we got double dipped by UW that year. But so I know what this program can be. It's been a little interesting coming from directly from. I was doing like Oregon. Looking at Jet Washington, is he going to get playing time as a 5-star freshman coming in? And don't quite have those guys at Florida State, but I can see the plan with what's going on with the roster.
We don't have the guys that Oregon has.
Yeah.
Time changes.
Yeah. But
The film review is going to be fun with you when we get to the athleticism portion of what you normally see, how fast your guys have been moving versus the ones that Florida State does. However, before we get into the video, last question before I let the two smart guys take over most of the talking. The three safety system, something that you were familiar with, mentioned that they kind of Oregon cribbed from Ohio State. They ran it to great effect last year. I guess kind of talk about just some of the general pros, cons that you saw of that. And do you know anything about the Tony White variant of it before we kind of get to the film?
I've been trying to learn about the Tony White stuff. It's been interesting to. I didn't know that it was going back to his playing days and stuff like that, and the system that he came up in, and that it's kind of been a staple of what he's done. But it was something new for Oregon last year. Is one of my favorite things I got to talk about with Chris Hampton, the new defensive coordinator who was the DB's coach for Oregon last year, was just the way that their defense has changed every year, and the way that what good coaches do is not just, you don't have a stagnant system, you have a system that you adapt to your players and kind of mesh those things together. And that's what Oregon was really able to do. The year before, they had a guy, Brandon Johnson, the Duke transfer, playing the nickel, just a regular nickel. But then last year they brought in this guy, Jaden Kennedy, he was a late transfer, got him in like February or something in the transfer portal. But he, from Ole Miss, had a connection to Chris Hampton from Tulane. But Kennedy had played free safety, played strong safety, played outside corner, played nickel. He'd basically done everything throughout his career. And so he would play the nickel, but then they began to kind of do this thing where, like you said, they stole it from Ohio State. I mean, other teams have done this stuff. What they did was very similar to what Ohio State was doing. And then it also was just, they got completely obliterated by Ohio State in that game when we put Caleb Downs in the middle of that defense. They were like, hey, we also have a really good safety with really good instincts, because that's what Caleb Downs does so well. So they got Dylan Thieneman in the transfer portal. He was a guy at Purdue where his strength, like his first year, he had this insane freshman season at Purdue, playing over the top, playing free safety, using that speed to range from sideline to sideline. But when Oregon put him in the middle of the defense, they knew that a guy with his instincts, he just is kind of going to be able to react to things really quickly, and putting him in that position just put him in a really advantageous spot to be able to come downhill, attack the run, could play over the top, and they could because you're in this kind of weird 3-high look, you can rotate into all sorts of these disguises, which really became a big part of it. And it also helps when you have, 4 NFL defensive linemen who can, win gaps and stuff like that. But but Oregon was very effective in the way they used it last year, and especially in games like Texas Tech late in the season, and some of the ones they really shut teams down. Washington was the one that they put a spy on Damon Williams, and he was just not able. Damon Williams does not play from the pocket that well in the first place, but they were able to really shut down Washington's offense by doing that. And it was really cool to just kind of see the evolution throughout the season. They introduced.
Hello. There he's back.
There you go. A little glitch there. Anything? Well said, my friend. Well said. Kevin, Adam, anything that you want to prepare our new friend John before we hop into the film, based on everything that he knows? Any other sort of nuggets of the Tony White, maybe Florida State's defense last season that may, differences, just things to maybe prime him before we get into the film?
So this is an old system, right? Like this this wasn't invented by Ohio State a couple years, and I know you know this. The Tony White's kind of this 3-3 stack kind of look isn't the old 3-3 stack of Charlie Strong. Is that who's running it back in Texas back in the day? Where like it's a true 3-over-3. You got these like natural 4 techniques sitting on top of the tackles, and the 40 technique linebacker right behind them. This is more in line with kind of what you were saying. It allows you to get into these looks in a varied way, right? So it's probably in line with what a lot of people are doing. I mean, Tony White found a lot of success at Nebraska. I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State had kind of taken some of that stuff, because they had a top 10 defense when he was there in Nebraska 3 years ago. And so this kind of thing has been around, but it's exactly what you said, right? You have this safety that can kind of, from depth, be a nickel, can be a middle safety, can attack gaps from certain places. It allows you to kind of get back at these teams who are running a lot of RPOs, who want to just like look at that B gap bubble and say, hey, we're going to run an RPO for this. You have a stress player who's got both the B gap and has to cover outside. He can't do both. Well, now we can cover that B gap from a central safety. We can disguise who's covering that B gap. And so it kind of throws a wrench in a lot of the RPOs. And so that's what's happening with a lot of this stuff and the theory behind all of it. I think a lot of people, one thing that you'll run into, John, with the fan base and kind of the common talking point behind it is that it's a gimmick. It's something that that not a lot of, if you're serious about winning,
like
you're
big boy college football programs, normally 4 guys on the line.
We're going to have
our guys
4-3.
are better than your guys. Traditional edge. Yeah, maybe 4-2-5, stuff like that. Like there is sort of I wouldn't say a derision, but there is a skepticism. Honestly, a lot. I can't really blame a lot of people based on the results of the back half of the season, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think it just kind of plays into the factor of you think about like with my in 2013 it was Earl Thomas playing single high safety, and it was all those, you would drop your strong safety into the box and then you would play single high over the top, but then teams were able to start taking advantage of this with crossers and stuff like that in the passing game. Now a team like the Seahawks is running almost 2 high safeties the entire time because they're trying to protect over the top, and then they also have really good guys who can crash against the run. It's just trying to find answers for things that offenses are doing. I mean, that's what football's about. So it's just another kind of variant, which is what makes it interesting.
Yeah. So what you're going to see is a lot of a single gap. So it's not traditional, 3 down kind of double 2 gapping. They might do a little 2 gapping. It's a lot of single gap. They're going to bring a linebacker in as a 4th guy, or line up and kind of your kind of 3-4 with that jack looking kind of more like a true defensive end, they might look just like a true 4-down team. They play with the fronts a lot and do a lot of 1 gapping. And so we'll see that. I've got a bunch of film pulled up of FSU's Rover from last year, Earl Little, who's now at Ohio State. And so, yeah, we can kind of watch how they used him in that position. He won't be the Rover this year, but I guess it'll be hopefully illustrative of what's going on.
What are your guys' thoughts on where Barker kind of fits into this position? Like, I've heard that he's a guy who can come downhill, and that's why they like him in the middle and stuff like that. But where are you guys feeling at?
Adam, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, because I wonder if they echo mine.
Well, he was the boundary safety last year, and they loved him there. And it was interesting. They did a lot. Last year, the whole kind of conversation was they wanted those 3 guys to be interchangeable, and they wanted all 3 of them to be able to do the same thing, so that they could give a look from either one of those spots. They wanted them to just be interchangeable. So it's interesting now that they're going to make him the Rover. Would have thought he had gotten comfortable at that boundary safety, and you'd want to keep him there. But he's definitely a guy that's his best ball is when he's coming forward and playing the run, and being more of like a curl flat player or a hook curl player in the pass game, as opposed to wanting, that doesn't sound good, as opposed to wanting to be like I don't think he's at his strength being a deep third safety or a guy you're asking to come off the hash and be a half field player. So I think it's a better fit. I think they're going to probably do some more of like you were talking about with like what Ohio State was doing and what Oregon did, with almost playing him like a high Mike, being able to play some like Tampa 2 kind of stuff, and match him up on tight ends, because he is a physical guy that can run. So I like Barker. He's got to stay healthy. So that,
in Oregon's defense, it really kind of was like a linebacker. They in the Penn State game, where Penn State was playing 12 personnel almost that entire game. They played Bryce Betcher in that position pretty much the entire time. So they would use it very much like a linebacker responsibilities. There
was times where it felt like Earl Little was a third backer, but they didn't bring him in the box a lot. They would put their nickel in the box, and he'd be a force player for them. And it really was ugly, and they got their ass kicked on it.
I think the problem, and this is an issue that has honestly preceded Tony White with the Florida State defenses of the past, is you'll see consistently Florida State has had a tough time when teams will will funnel the run game and force Florida State's secondary to make tackles, because we have not had physical, sure tacklers in the backfield for a long time. Happened to, what was the kid, Cypress from Virginia, pretty good cover guy. We've had that. And you could really see the effectiveness of Florida State's defense almost based on how many whiff tackles Earl Little had. I think you'll see it in the film. Like that Alabama game, very sure defense. He was bringing people down on contact, wrapped them up. There was a lot of explosives and extra free yardage in the run game when he would be the player that was supposed to stop it. And his tackling kind of, it wasn't consistent. So I think that maybe, even though Adam said like maybe having a player in a position for another year that benefit, I just think that they need to have a guy who can be a consistent presence in the run game. And I think Ashlyn Barker is your best tackler in the Florida State secondary. I think that's maybe why they're choosing him. But let's throw on the film so we can see what we're talking about. Good question though, John. Very nice.
Yeah, so I only have one clip from Bama, but it is the first play defensively on the season last year, and this is Earl Little. He's playing the Rover position, and you can kind of see, I guess, the ideal of what happens.
To Adam, how do you see them lined up here?
Well, they're playing bigger personnel in the box. You got to run it back. So, yeah, see, they bring the field safety up into the box here, and they use him almost like the force player, and they let the nickel, or they let the corner be rolled back. So they're going to roll. Yeah. So Earl's playing.
Oh, you're talking about this guy.
Yeah, Earl's playing like a cover 1 look here, or cover 3 look. So they're showing cover 3 or cover 1, and he's going to rotate real late.
Yeah. So
he's just the extra guy. I mean, he's just the extra guy in the box. They're playing. I don't know why I pay that much attention to the coverage, but they're going to try to let him be a free runner at the run game, and a hole player, and do everything else with the coverage, with the other 5 guys in coverage. But it got funky because they're asking like what's his name? What was the
Edwin Joseph?
Edwin Joseph. Yeah, they're asking Edwin.
He was
Joseph.
out of position all year, dude.
Yeah, well, they're asking him to be a force player, but also could play coverage. Like, it just got really weird.
Yeah, so this is kind of the ideal. You have someone from depth.
Right.
I think kind of the idea of that 3 safety is truly this image that, going forward is faster than going backwards. So if I bring a safety back, we can always disguise something with him going forward, or whatever.
And like you said, consistent tackler, good, actually was physical in that Alabama game, brought him down, and was a presence the entire time. As you see, I think based on the clips that we have, there's more passivity, there's more indecision, there's just the consistency was lacking, and it really threw a wrench in what Florida State's defensive plans were. John, anything that you're seeing so far that looks like in a stark difference to what you saw at Oregon?
Well, they play that high safety, or that third guy, like they play him on their free safeties, whereas Oregon would drop him like below into like he was almost like 10 yards off the ball or something like that for doing him in. But that's where on like that first down run that Virginia had a couple plays ago, it's what you're talking about, where he takes like a false step back, where you got to play very instinctively to kind of be in that role if you're going to be coming from that depth. That's what Dylan Peterman's a first round pick. That's why he was able to do that for Oregon's defense last year. But if you're, you can't be taking those false steps like that.
Ohio State paid him a lot of money to go be that for them. So I'm curious to see how it does. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that everything on that side of the ball is coached perfectly. So I agree. When we talked about a lot in film review, it was way too deep. A lot of times, his false steps were bad. Like he just. He missed a lot of tackles because of alignment, in my opinion.
But here, I mean,
he gets so much
more of tackling like than the actual like finishing the play is your angles to the ball and taking the correct steps on it in the first place. So that could definitely make sense.
Here, you literally see him lined up as a linebacker, like he's in a traditional linebacker position. Kind of inserts like a linebacker.
Yeah, they're in 12 personnel. I mean,
yeah,
it makes sense.
I think a lot of times too, a lot of stress was put on this backfield by the second level. Because I'd say from this game on, there's a really good line of demarcation where opposing offensive coordinators really found out that the Achilles heel of this defense was the second level and those linebackers and getting mismatches and crossing routes. And
Wait, he gets targeted for this tackle.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah. That's great.
They really go ahead, John.
Those linebackers too, Oregon's defense worked because you had the right players in every position. They would play their linebackers last year really wide because they would put Dylan Thieneman in the middle, but it works because you have Bryce Betcher, who's a Gold Glove center fielder, and can range side to side. And Jerry Mixon was another really good athlete that they had. So it does require, it puts a lot of stress on linebackers horizontally when you can kind of hit them with those crossing routes and stuff like that.
We neglected linebacker recruiting for better part of 3 years. So
here sees something kind of interesting. Virginia comes out in this quad set, so there's there's 4 receivers out to the right. That forces Earl Little, the Rover, into this kind of it kind of forces them to show their hand, right? It looks like they're in man coverage here. He's no longer playing center field. He's had to roll up to cover this unbalanced look. And here you see kind of the what that hesitancy, what that half-second pause, what that lack of instincts, right? He probably has to recognize that this inside movement means that he's now got one of these gaps in here, and he's just slow to do that. And because of that, well, now he's having to make a tackle not here after this jump cut, but in space, and he misses it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between 4th and 2 and 3rd and 6.
And Adam, do you think that's mostly just like unfamiliarity with the position? I mean, he didn't play a lot before coming to Florida State. What do you think? It's not an athleticism thing. He was a very highly thought of recruit. I mean, he's going to Ohio State.
He'd certainly never been a 1 high safety or whatever 3 high safety. Yeah, I mean, it was new to him, but I mean, we're up into the season at this point. Like, you've
game 4 or 5. Yeah.
Don't. I mean.
It was their regression.
I think there became a lot of freelancing. I also think they put these guys in a lot of positions where they were being asked to do a lot of two-way things, and it muddied the picture. I mean, I just remember how talking about, like in pass coverage, how deep they were all the time. I think they asked a lot of these guys, and they weren't necessarily able to handle it, and it shows in a lot of the reactions.
And then John,
and that's where too I feel like Barker being a guy that prefers to come downhill, and that's where his strength is. That's putting your players in the best position to succeed by putting him there instead of a guy who's maybe not as used to doing something like that.
Yeah,
and John,
I mean, I think they got pigeonholed into playing Earl there because they were paying him a lot of money. He's a really good athlete. There's a lot of pedigree there, and I think he looks really good running around out doing that kind of stuff. But when push comes to shove, it doesn't always translate to great.
But he gets credit. Yeah, so you see kind of the ebbs and flows of our defense really did run through this Rover position, because in a lot of these clips, the Rover position is the cleanup position, right? Mm-hmm. So I think this is the position. He's here in the middle of the field. The ball goes out. It gets funneled back into him correctly, and he's there to clean it up. Ideally that gets cleaner and we get him down after 3 yards, but I think it's this play. Again, he's the cleanup guy. That's a missed play. He misses the tackle there. And now what should have been an 8-yard gain turns into a 30-yard gain. And it's all because that cleanup, that Rover, wasn't in position.
And I think they just need that consistently, that cleanup guy to actually clean up the mess, to put the sawdust on the puke in the hallway. Like there was a lot of times where it didn't happen. And it was just free yards and free first downs. And there was 3 plays before this, Kev. I wanted to just tell John that a consistent theme, like bunch sets in Florida State's defense have not mixed for a long time. We have terrible time ID in it. We can't defend it. And anytime teams go to it, particularly with like crossing routes or attacking the seam, it's a cheat code right here.
And a couple of plays ago, when you had the two other safeties like crashing towards the box, towards the snap, you're obviously asking Little to be that guy that's as deep as everybody, like deeper than everybody else. That they just ask. It goes to the point you're making, where you're just kind of asking those guys to do too much. Where you're gonna make him be the guy that's deep, but also make him be the guy that's kind of coming in to clean up run plays. Like that would make sense that he's getting there a little bit late.
Yeah, and you could see the hesitancy, the back, the forward, the hop, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do. That was not there in the first clip of that Alabama game, and was not in him at all in the Alabama game, leading to a more effective performance from him and the safeties and the defense in general.
Yeah, I mean, to John's point, it goes. It's a hard position to play. They have to ask a lot of them, and they have to know their role intimately well. Like sometimes your cover 3 is going to look like a cover 3 where he is a true deep safety dropping 20 yards back. Sometimes it's going to look like a Tampa 2 where he's actually more of a middle linebacker, but his alignment starts the same, and he's got to know that. He's got to be able to approach it. One thing that we've seen with a lot of, and it's happened with the past 2 defensive coordinators, is these safeties have been extremely passive in the pass game. You see a lot of this kind of 10, 15-yard bubble between the linebackers and safeties because this guy's 40 yards downfield for no particular reason. And so, yeah, it's just something to monitor because it was a problem with Fuller. It's a problem with Tony White where they're taking this idea of the shell and it feels like it's too far. I get it 2nd and 16, but that's exactly why a 10-yard pass is more dangerous than a 30-yard pass,
Yeah, and Adam, a question for you, just when we're talking about all these different responsibilities that Earl had, that Thieneman had at Oregon, and Thieneman was able to accomplish it, Earl wasn't here. Do we think Ashlyn Barker can, or is this another guy that may be set up for failure based on limitations that he may or may not have? What do you think about that?
I don't think he's set up for failure. I mean, it depends on what they decide to do. I don't think that Barker, they're going to make a similar mistake in this season. I think they're going to probably realize more of what the strength and the weaknesses are of their guys and lean into that a bit more. And I mean, I don't think you move Ashlyn Barker off that boundary safety spot to say, okay, we're going to move you to Rover, or we're going to ask you to play a bunch of guys. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
So
he doesn't seem like a guy you would want like being that deep and playing like as a single
No. I agree. But they've had him do it. They have had him do it.
But Barker played some Rover last year.
Yeah. He did when Earl was. I can't remember if Earl was hurt or what the situation.
I think he was banged up. Yeah.
They did have him play a little bit.
This is Barker on the sack.
If they do, they're fools. If they simplify, don't be crazy with your shells back there. You've got a 4 shell. Play your 4 shell. Let Barker be.
Here's he playing center.
Barker play to his strengths in more of the hook curl area, curl flat area, and then coming down and being an extra run defender in the box. Like let him do that. That makes more sense.
Barker's a downhill guy, and if you actually go back and watch his film when he committed, he was at JUCO, I believe. Alabama was interested in him.
Yep,
he was a thumper. That's who he is. I guess it's him thumping. Where is he at? Here.
And by all accounts, he glowing reviews from the spring. I think even Brendan's RIP. His last T on the site said that they consider him to be the best player on the defense, I think.
Well, and I think you're going to kind of need him to be. Like, it's going to be the most important part of the defense, like, in terms of it really unlocks things against the run and the pass if you can have that guy, be like what they want him to be.
Yes, let's see what we got here. Are we looking at Little or Barker?
This is Barker film.
I mean, the reality of all of this conversation is, and I mean, John's been talking about all the guys at Oregon. Like, all of these pieces are married together.
Yeah.
That safety's job is the hardest on the football field. When they're being asked to play a deep third or go play man coverage, but then you got to fit down in the box. Like they're being asked to do so much, especially that Rover position. It is the linchpin of this defense. And if your D line up in front of you, your linebacker, if they're taking wrong gaps and or not playing the run very well, or whatever the case is, throughout the game, it just makes this spot so much harder, and it makes it so much more demanding for guys that I think that Earl Little's an NFL guy. I think Ashland Barker's probably an NFL guy, but I wouldn't call them first round Caleb Downs,
Right.
or whoever. So at that point, so they're not the top premier NFL guys that you're talking about. They're maybe a little bit down the board. It makes it that much harder. It makes their weaknesses stand out that much more. So yeah,
Well, that's what the coaching staff has to
go ahead.
That's what the coaching staff has to do is be able to understand what your players' weaknesses are so that you can put them in positions that they're not going to get exploited on those type of things.
Adam or Kev, any sort of adjustments? Because now this is year 2 with Tony White and Terrence Knighton and Nevin Cooper and all those guys. What do you guys think? Any adjustments that you think we may see, or adjustments that you'd like to see just from the total of the defensive scheme? I know we're talking mostly focusing on Rover, safety, secondary, but any tweaks that you guys would like to see for the 2026 season based on the personnel that we know that Florida State has and White and Knighton have a familiarity with?
I think we're going to see a lot more even fronts.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody that makes any sense to put on play as a nose tackle, and I think you're maybe going to see see them overload sides a little bit more and try to get some stuff going that way. But playing Daryl Jackson on the nose 70 or 80% of the time, that's probably out the window. You're probably going to be forced to play more even fronts, a true 3 and a true 1, whatever, wherever they want to line them up. That makes more sense to me for this year.
And that's how Oregon did it. They did it. They had Amari Washington was a 3 tech, and then they played Bear Alexander as the nose. And those guys were able to hold gaps and stuff like that. So that
guy played on Oregon, Bear Alexander. Why do I know that guy? He played for 7 schools, right? Am I thinking
Georgia and USC?
Georgia, USC. Okay.
Last year it actually really worked for him. So
good. Well, good for him.
They played more even front. They played more even front. Rule had them play more even front. There's an interesting article out there post Tony White leaving Nebraska. Matt Rule oh yeah, we did this, we brought this in. Even though Tony White's been running 3 high stuff for ages, but they were running. I can't remember if they were running some under and even or some under front. They were doing some stuff, and Matt Rule's kind of trying to take credit for it, which I think Matt Rule's a bit of a snake oil salesman personally, but so they at Nebraska, Tony White's last year, they ran a ton of even front, a boatload of it. They were running some wide 9 stuff, so I think it would make sense to me that they would do that this year with the personnel. They've got more 3 tech type D tackles.
Yeah.
Is there a guy that you feel can kind of be a pseudo nose and play that one?
Oh God! Well, ideally it would be Kevin Wynn, as far as size and pedigree, but we're still waiting for that to launch.
Yeah, it's got to be winner Daniel Lyons, but Daniel Lyons is going to be. He's not a natural fit there to me. But I mean, if you're one gapping or gap and a half, it's not the end of the world. They're just not going to be 2 gapping at all. You Daryl Jackson, you're not 2 gapping anything with these guys.
I think if they're in an even front, it's semantics. They're practically running 4 down stuff. To a true 3 down odd front person from 20 years ago, if you had shown them what they're doing, where they've got 3 down linemen, but they're shooting 1 gap and they're running up a jack as an edge rusher, and at that point you're running a 4 down defense. And I think he does a good job generating pressure. I think hopefully you're going to get more out of Kennedy than you got last year from a true pass rush perspective. That kind of hamstrung them. They had to get real creative with pressure packages, and he's going to do that anyways. But you just saw things one thing that Tony White loves to do is to just drop 8. He'll just drop 8 on a passing down, try to flood those underneath zones, and try to get in a quarterback's eyes before and make him make a bad decision before he feels it. And teams just figured out that FSU couldn't generate a pass rush with 3 people.
I'm not a fan of that stuff if you don't have anybody who can actually win one-on-one matchups.
Right. So it quickly was something that they had to kind of pivot from, but it's something that they got a lot of mileage out of in Nebraska, and it's something that they just couldn't run last year here. And so it's something that It's something that I wouldn't mind seeing more of if you can generate some pass rush. I like the flexibility that this defense provides. However, you have real questions along the defensive line, real questions along the linebacker core. If those aren't answered, then it doesn't matter how clever
they got stuck having to play a ton of man coverage because they couldn't generate a pass rush last year. They said they had to play a ton of man coverage and blitz. It wasn't a strength. I mean, that's secondary. We're talking about Ashton Barker as a boundary safety, but we're also talking about potentially his weaknesses of saying, hey, we realize he's probably not a half field safety. He's probably not a guy you want playing deep third, but they were asking him to because they're trying to play so much man coverage. They're asking him to play man on guys. They're asking Earl to play man. They're asking Edwin Joseph to play a ton of. It was a mess because they just couldn't win anything up front. So, really, the entire conversation that we're having here is great, and it's a good introduction to John obviously coming to the website and the work he's done at Oregon.
Yeah,
and the work he started looking at here, but the work for us moving into the season is really all about the front, and if they've got anybody that can get a pass rush.
I think so too. The thing that I don't know if I might just be like a negative Nancy kind of worry wart, but the thing that just is flashing in my head is, especially when you talk about the size and no true one technique, is just we got bulldozed in those last couple of games in run defense, man. And the one hallmark of Tony White's defense is wherever he went, he was a dude that stopped the run. And, sometimes he'd give up the odd explosive here or there, right? We all know about that Indiana game when he was at Nebraska or whatever, but solid, well-coordinated defenses that stopped the run, and they gave up 9 billion yards to Florida. And I'm worried about teams just duoing them to death. It's going to put a lot of stress. I don't really trust. I mean, they infuse some new veteran guys in the linebacking room. Hopefully that helps. But man, I don't know. Adam and Kev, what do you guys think? And John, I'll get your thoughts on their thoughts. But am I being a little too pessimistic? I really worry about this front's ability to stop the run.
Well, I think a couple things. I think they went on and got a little more physical at linebacker, which helps. Chris Jones is a little more of a thumper than what they've had. Blake is Blake. We kind of know what to expect out of him at this point.
Look at this.
This is John was talking about it when we all started. This is what excites him. This is chess matches. So now all these defenses are playing all this, coverage. They're playing all this umbrella coverage, or they're running all this 3 high stuff. Well, now what are teams doing? You're seeing 12 personnel. You're seeing 13 personnel. You're seeing duo become a major, major part of the run game in college football and in the NFL. Look at the Rams. They played a ton of 13 personnel last year. One of the best offenses in the league. Obviously, the Seattle Seahawks.
All of these are 12, 13 personnel, extra tight ends.
So this is teams' answers to all this 3 high stuff. So Florida State's going to have to hold up. They're going to have to find ways to, Ashton Barker coming down and being an extra force in the box. So I was talking about earlier, play your umbrella coverage, get Ashton Barker down in the box. We don't know if this D line is going to hold up, but I think they made it an effort to be able to play a 6-man box with Barker coming down and say, okay, we can hold up. We'll see whether it actually happens or not. I like the Desir brothers. I like Daniel Lyons. I've spoken about Daniel Lyons quite a bit on this show about what I think he can be. We'll see if that happens and comes to fruition this year. But I do think they've made an effort and a point to go out and get guys to be able to sustain against these 12 personnel looks that they're getting out of their base looks.
Yeah, and the only thing I can think of, hopefully you can maybe offset some of that lack of size with the quickness. And maybe this is more of a havoc-causing defensive line where you're more susceptible to the home runs and you're slanting, you're playing games. Maybe you can get some more tackles for loss than you did last year, and that helps you out. I just worried about them getting ground down. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Well, and that stuff is you got to have well timed those D-line games and stuff like that. You can't just be running it whenever. You got to have it at the right moment. That's what made Mike McDonald's defense so good last year for the Seahawks. They generated a ton of pressure from running D-line games and stuff like that. But also helps when you're you can have Byron Murphy anchor down in the middle of that defense. But that's how they would be able to get guys free into run gaps and stuff like that. Is if you can time it up with what you think the offense is doing.
We were freaking running guys late. This also isn't a great example. This game was an absolute cluster.
Yeah, believe it or not, one of these teams did not have their head coach.
Yeah,
it's not the one you would expect.
Oh,
so here's some even front we talked about earlier.
Yeah, they held up. But yeah, Florida had one game plan. It was to hand the ball to Jordan Baugh and let him run for 7 million yards on this.
Yeah, defense. Give or take. I thought Kevin Adam. I thought there's
Barker down the box there, John.
I thought the stunts and stuff. I thought they were generally pretty well. I thought they were generally pretty well coordinated. Adam and Kev. Did you guys think so? Maybe a little bit overused because they couldn't win 1-on-1s in the pass rush game. But I thought that when they did run stunts,
he's got to be better there. I mean, you just can't. He's got to understand, like you're a force guy. You cannot. I mean, obviously he's taking on offensive tackle, but you can't.
You got a collision.
Yeah, you've got to squeeze. I mean, there's got to be some squeeze there.
Nobody takes that gap there. Like I don't even know who's supposed to be there.
Welcome
maybe
to the party,
a little.
Pal. Yeah.
Buckle up.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
You're gonna learn a lot about.
Don't go calling Dan Lanning in like week 4. Like, what the hell did I get myself into?
Yeah,
John, you're gonna learn a lot about looking at gap assignments by linebackers. That's 90% of our conversation.
Or just we say it all the time, man.
Gap discipline from linebackers.
Yeah,
honestly, just being tough, dude. Just causing a collision and making a mess. That's what we'd like to see even more. Like gap discipline, schmap discipline. Sometimes, like just hit somebody and make it ugly.
It's very hard for a safety to come in from depth to fill a gap if the linebackers in front of them aren't making the gap smaller.
This is a persistent problem. I don't know, and honestly, I can't think of a better technical term other than systemized passivity a little bit, man. Like there hasn't been too many people. Luckily, some of them are coming back. I like Jabril Rawls, actually. I thought he was pretty physical on the defensive side of the ball, but Adam, not a lot of guys over the past couple of years that have imposed their will from Florida State's defense from just a physicality standpoint.
Who's doing
They got a long way to go personnel-wise.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys are gone, too. I mean, there's 2 guys there that are back, and the other 2 are gone along the D-line anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just no. Yeah, that's the thing is that we can talk about safeties all day, but, a lot of this is just your linebackers getting.
When he gave up the edge, he's just standing up when the tackle engages it. There's no attempt at a long arm or anything to try to knock him back and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, most of the problems
quit at this point too. I mean,
yeah, the team with the head coach has quit here.
An unfortunate reality of bad football.
Over and over and over and over again.
Yep, it's just give the ball. This is one game.
You see what they were doing there, John? Like they're rolling the field safety up as the force guy here, which is okay. I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't keep him back and bring your Rover up as the force guy here.
But no one collisioned on this team.
Did they do that with Tiedemann? Is that what they kind of did with Tiedemann at Oregon? Would they bring
they would let Jaden Kennedy play that force guy, and he was 185, but he would just hit people on the edge. So
he actually had the balls
right. So what we see a lot is this collision needs to hear, otherwise this gap gets too big. Right? It doesn't matter whose gap this is.
Yeah.
Because he surfs this collision, and now you could drive a semi truck through there.
It's true. Like the Oregon Duck could ride his Harley Davidson or whatever he does before the game through that hole, do a wheelie.
But that's a bringing the free safety, like the field safety, to be that's just something that doesn't make sense to me, because then you're not making that same defensive structure. You still have your Rover being the guy in the middle, but if you have Ashley Barker, I'd rather have him just go be physical and go be that guy over there, and let the field safety, who you think is a better athlete, better coverage guy or whatever, let him just play over the top.
Right. That's kind of my
take on it.
Put him in his fit. Put the guy you trust is going to be a good force player, put them in the fit, and then let the other guys go play coverage. Don't.
And this is a common thing people do too. They'll do this real condensed set, crack down, knowing that whoever has to replace this gap is a corner. And now you got a corner, you jump cut outside, and now it's just a corner in space making a tackle.
I mean, that's what running games have been built on for years and years and years. Is make cornerbacks tackle because they're not very good at it.
Yep.
Yes.
And
we
ultimately,
succeeded a lot.
Ultimately, you need the other guys to make sure that that's not easy, you know?
Turn this vomit-inducing football off.
Yeah, I think he's got enough
Yeah,
of the.
sorry.
I think he's got enough of the point. Just what it looked like against Alabama. The stark difference when you're playing with confidence, like the system can work. John, you've seen the system work. The system has worked at other places, and they don't have to be the caliber of the roster that Oregon has. Right? It's just there were some fundamental things last year about Tony White's defense with the pieces that he had. And a lot of it was a point that Adam and Kev brought in earlier. There was a lot of stuff that I think Tony White wants to do as a defensive coordinator where he did not have access to those parts of his playbook because when he tried, the results were disastrous. Like all we talked about in the offseason before last year was like zone and all of the different things that Tony White's going to do. And he wasn't able to do a lot of them, right? He was stuck doing a lot of other things. And I do think also to maybe kind of Adam's point, I didn't really realize it at the time, but maybe watching the video, there almost seemed to be the importance, Adam, that Tony White placed on like malleability and interchangeability. Like this guy can do anything at any time and all of my safeties can do this at any time. Or when you see with like the stuff against Florida, if he would have dialed that back a little bit and realized that I don't have 3 perfect safeties, I need to also put these guys in the best position, even if it compromises some of my core defensive principles. I wonder if he'll be more likely to compromise knowing the limitations and the strengths of the guys on this roster. I will say, in the positive column, I like the reports I've been hearing out of the safety room, and I like the guys that they got out of the transfer portal. Like I think that there's a lot of promise there to the point where outside of the wide receiver and the running backs, safety's in my top 3 favorite rooms on the team. What do you guys think? Cause for optimism a little bit with some of the additions? I'm trying.
You're not catching me, Trey. You're not.
I know,
me.
dude. I almost thought I could get the big guy, a new person on.
Look, if you get the linebacker play we've got in the past couple of years and don't have a pass rush, I don't care what your safety is.
It's not going to matter, yeah.
I actually don't mind the secondary. I think the secondary is going to be fine, but no one's fine when, you know, you're asking a Rover to fill a semi-tractor trailer-sized hole with a tackle coming at him, pulling from the side. You know, like, what is he supposed to do at that point?
Yeah. John, what stuck out to you during that little exercise? Especially based on your background of how you've seen it run these past couple of years.
I mean, just the lack of like coordination between different things. Like it's just the idea of you're not putting your guys in the best position to succeed. Like that's what Chris Hampton was able to talk about with Oregon's defense last year. Like they've changed it every year because you have to have an understanding of who your players are and your scheme, and then how those things can work together. And if you're trying to, you fit a square peg into a round hole, like that's just at the end of the day, that's not going to work when you're under pressure of an actual game.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to have that understanding of what are my player skill sets and where can I put them. If Ashton Barker is the more physical of my safeties, maybe we put him down there instead of dropping either of the 2 transfer safeties that bring it in. Yeah. Like you just gotta have an understanding and be able to kind of change it with what you're doing. And I think part of that too, Tony White just getting comfort in year 2 with the program, and
sure.
Players like Barker, like having doesn't necessarily his main role last year, but he played it a little bit. He's been having the understanding that that's going to be what he's doing for the entire offseason and stuff like that. And then we've heard that he's been one of the best players throughout this offseason. So I think there's like a lack of synergy you need to have to be able to execute that. You have to have synergy between your front 7 and your secondary. That's what made Oregon so good last year when they did that, was because you had really, really good defensive linemen, you had good linebackers who knew what they were doing, and then you could put your star player Thieneman in like a spot where he can go do special things. Same with Ohio State. You have the guys you have up front, and then you can go let your guy do whatever he wants to do. But you got to have that synergy between those different levels of the defense, and when that's not happening, huge gaps open up in the run game. You can't stop the run game. You're not going to stop anything.
Right.
Well said, sir. Adam and Kev, anything else to wrap it up for our new colleague, our new friend John, as the season dawns upon us, as we start to get – I felt a little crisp in the air up here in the Midwest. We took temperatures in the 70s. And when that happens, you guys have been trying to be apathetic, but those football senses start tingling a little bit. Anything you want to say to John before the season starts? And one way or another, this is going to be an interesting season. I can tell you. Anything you guys want to give to John?
No, I think folks should take the time to go check out some of the work he's done.
Me too, 100%.
Before he got here. Brendan, when he let us know that he was leaving, John was a guy that was on the radar early. He shared that name with us, and I did some research, and I was really impressed. He's a guy like us that wants to get in the weeds with football and just kind of talk about it. He wants to use video as a avenue to get it out there. So expect to see him on here with us a lot. I'm excited to see his work over on the website too, and hope that he takes the opportunity to continue to do all his stuff, with his video and with his ability to break the game down over on the website also, and here with us. And it's just, I'm excited to have another football guy on board.
Welcome, dude. Kevin?
No, it's great to have you on, John, and I will have to get creative about how we mix and match and kind of create some content.
Yeah, I'm excited. Just like you said, football guys, like people who want to actually talk about like what's going on with the team. So yeah.
3 football guys and a jabroni host. We are not changing the name of the program, but that's kind of what you got here. Expect a lot more of this format moving forward. I dare say, guys, Noles 24/7. This is the Ball Knowers website. This is the website for ball. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to throw it out there. I'll find maybe a cleaner way to advertise that, but I'm feeling that this is going to be a great X's and O's adventure. And of course, as always, we appreciate your time, the viewer, guys. I told you the season's coming up. Get your ass on Noles247.com. Subscribe. Get in the message board. Start reading all those killer articles by John Evans, by Colby Crawford, by the GOAT, Chris Nee. The videos are going to be fast and furious. Season's coming up. Camp is starting. Going to start looking at opponents. Going to start looking at the schedules. Everybody's announcing who their starting quarterback is for Florida State's opponents. Guys, it's coming up. And if you want to be on the cusp, tip of the spear of everything that's going on with the Florida State Seminoles football program and every other sports program, Noles247.com and the X's and Noles YouTube channel, the place to be. Guys, we love you all. For Kevin, Adam, and my new friend, John, I am Trey Rowland. Guys, football's coming up.
Does John know how to chop? Let's see if John can keep it chopping.
John said keep chopping.
Hey, there it is.
Little loose with the digits.
Yeah,
that's okay.
finger, yeah.
Keep it chopping. That's not bad. For number 1, perfect, guys. We'll catch you later.